is Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
Of course, on a Tuesday, we always put in a little overtime. Welcome to Fox 8 Overtime. The band is back together. Sean Vazan, Chris Hagan, Garland Gill, and I'm Juan Kincaid. It's finally game week for this black and gold football team. Let's get it going, right?
Heck yeah. I'm ready, man. I know the guys are tired of hitting each other. Devon Zigbo told me that he's ready to roll. He can see the game in sight, so he can grind through these practices just to get to Friday.
Yeah, it's always good to see some live football. And look, I know it's backups, but it's still meaningful ball because these are meaningful jobs to be earned.
You're right.
Let's get going, man. We've seen enough practice. Let's get going.
So tired of hearing about preseason football. All right. Well, training camp, that is. Let's get you right to the big board. A lot to talk about tonight. The preseason gets underway for real on Friday. For real, in the Dome against the Vikings. LSU's looking like contenders and Tulane's turning up expectations. But let's begin with the black and gold. Start of preseason games Friday in the Dome against the Vikings. Of course, the starters won't play much. They never do in the first game. But a guy like Michael Thomas could see plenty of time, right, to help him catch up. Football endurance-wise because of his holdout. The expectations for Michael Thomas to get some playing time in game one. Your thoughts, guys?
I say none.
Really?
Sorry, I don't see the need to risk him. I know he held out for the first 5 practices, but if you watch the last few practices, it certainly didn't feel like he's missed anything. So, look, this first preseason game, you have a lot of players, particularly at that position, to evaluate. Maybe he gets a drive or two, but I'm leaning more towards why risk it. I mean, I don't see the point. So I say no 13 on Friday.
Those ankles are worth $50 million a piece, man. He is not going to play this Friday against the Vikings. And look, that's not a problem. Thomas, you can see it on these highlights. He and Drew Brees are in sync. They could probably spend a year apart and come back and catch slant routes with their eyes closed, blindfold. I mean, look, he's going to eventually need to get some work, but this isn't the time. I think him and a lot of starters will be rested in this game. But again, we've talked about the depth of this team before, and a lot of the jobs up for grabs are along the last at each position.
Yeah.
So there's still plenty of meaningful football to be watched and played that won't involve number 13.
Not only is he in sync with Brees, but in Monday's practice, he was in sync with Taysom Hill and Teddy Bridgewater. In one-on-one drills, Eli Apple gave him a 10-yard cushion. Michael Thomas still went by him. Ball's a little underthrown, but he still caught it. So he done whatever quarterback is out there, he's gonna make his and catch his, and he's done that with all 3 of the quarterbacks.
It would seem like the best players on this team need the less amount of work to get ready for a preseason game. That's kind of what you guys are saying, right?
Oh, yeah, they're ready to roll, man. Drew Brees, you probably won't see him on Friday night. Michael Thomas won't see him on Friday night. Some of your big dogs are going to be on the bench.
On the rookie watch, all expect to play. Eric McCoy, Saquon Hampton, etc. I would imagine that with some of these guys, they need to play more than others, and it may not be the ones you think.
Well, let's start with the top there, Eric McCoy, because I think he's in the lead, and in fact, I almost think he's pulling away in this competition. So if he validates that with solid tape during the preseason, I think he's your starting center come week 1. So if he comes into the game and it's too big for him, then maybe they got to reevaluate. So he kind of has, to me, I think he's in the lead. So if he comes in and plays well, I think he solidifies his job. But if he plays poorly, maybe perhaps it's a little bit more of an open competition. Saquon Hampton, to me, has been one of the biggest surprises of camp. Out of nowhere, he kind of puts together some great practices and always seems to have a nose for the football. We've talked about Gardner Johnson. Caden Ellis has been a player that's really played well. And then LSA Mack's been hurt. We'll see if he plays. I thought he was well on his way to making this roster until he got a little bit banged up.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see guys like Hampton play some safety. I mean, he's obviously brought in to be a special teams guy, and that's going to be the best place that he can make the team. But like Sean said, I mean, the guy's been making a couple more plays in camp and has been a great surprise. The defensive back coach Aaron Glenn, said he's got a lot better hands than he thought he would. And so to see him be able to play that position and maybe see what he can be groomed into down the road, and you can say the same for a lot of guys, I think that's going to be exciting to see them, get the start and get some meaningful live reps.
Garland, obviously, a lot of these guys, the drafted players and the younger players, they're going to have to win jobs on this team based on what happens in the game. It can't be just what they do in training camp practices.
I will say this, you're right, and when you're talking about Hampton, he's shown it in practice so far, getting picks on back-to-back days. You just saw the pick of Teddy Bridgewater. He picked Drew Brees on Sunday night, and we were talking to him about it. he's like his friends back home, his boys were texting him, "You picked off from Drew Brees. You got Drew Brees." So I could tell that the youthful exuberance of some of those rookies, and we've been seeing a lot of Emmanuel Butler. He hasn't even been out there at practicing. On Monday's workout there, he was out there, but he was in street clothes, or he had a hoodie on and a jersey, but didn't have pads on, wasn't playing. So those kind of guys need to get back in the mix of things there. A guy like number 32, Devine Zigbo, had a great cut in practice the other day, scored a touchdown there. Those kind of guys need to start showing out here in these next few weeks. They want to make that 53-man and the practice squad.
I think what's interesting as we go forward here with the running back situation, we know 1 and 2 are pretty much locked in, but it seems like that Sean Payton is looking for something specific with that number 3. They bring in another running back, get rid of a Tulane product, Rob Kelly. He's out. Didn't last very long at all. They bring in Rodgers. I mean, what is he looking for that number 3 back? Because it's no longer, it seems like they're looking for a guy that can just block for Drew Brees back there.
Yeah, I think they want someone that's dependable. They want someone that can contribute in some form or fashion to special teams, someone that they can throw in maybe in third down and can run the ball and can catch the ball. They brought in Jacquez Rodgers. I think the third running back position has become one of the premier battles of this camp because there's a lot of questions that have been answered in a lot of different areas. But if I'm handicapping it based on the practices, I think Dwayne Washington is in the lead. But if someone shows out, which a running back always seems to do in the preseason, someone shows out in the preseason, someone could take that job. It's certainly not etched in stone that Dwayne Washington is the number 3 back.
Unfortunately, even from what we see in the preseason, because of what Sean Payton's looking for, we don't know what he's looking for. It might be someone that comes from somewhere else. Like last year, we were so hyped up on Jonathan Williams, and he had some good preseason games, and we're like, yep, this could be the guy to spell Alvin Kamara. And then what do you know? Week 1, it's Mike Gillislee. Obviously, he didn't last too long. But then it became the Alvin Kamara show. Like, there was really not a spell at all. His carries went up to about 30 a game, it felt like. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think if all else fails, if the Saints don't get what they want, it becomes almost a moot point. And I get it, injuries happen, you want to have them, but this could very well be the 80% Kamara show and 20% Murray show if I had to bet.
It seems like Rodgers is just another version of Kamara, just not quite as good, but still in the same mold.
He almost looks in the mold of a Darren Sproles, just body and build, okay? There's not a lot of guys in the NFL that look like me. And like Darren Sproles looks like me. I'm talking about body.
We got you.
Yeah, I'm talking about height and weight. And it's bizarre for me to, like when Jacquez Rodgers, Chris and I were interviewing the other day, he's looking eye to eye at me. He's got about the same, obviously a little more muscle. But he looks like short. Just a little more muscle than me. But he's got some of this Darren Sproles. The look of Darren Sproles, he just got into camp the other day. You know, he talked about flying in from Houston last minute there. He was doing workouts in the weight room and everything in Houston. It's going to be quick, but he's going to have 4 games to prove it. He's played in the league already, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll get some answers to these questions with the Saints starting this Friday with preseason. The opener here on Fox 8, Saints and Vikings at 7 o'clock. Coverage starts at 6:30. Then it's off to the Chargers in week 2. The black and gold will be back on Fox 8 Saturday, August 24th. At the Jets, and then Thursday, August 29th, hosting the Miami Dolphins. Still to come on Overtime. LSU opens camp, and expectations are extremely high in Baton Rouge, but are they unrealistic? We'll discuss next.
Watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
Welcome back in Overtime. Switching gears now to college football. All of our teams are back to work, and the LSU Tigers, who will begin the season ranked 6th in the coaches poll, have a short amount of time to get ready for their August 31st opener against Georgia Southern. Anything less than a 10-win season would be a disappointment for LSU. In fact, there's talk in Tiger circles that this team could end up playing in the Final Four. But are we expecting way too much, way too soon for this LSU football team, Chris?
I don't think we are. I mean, they should be favored in a lot of games outside of Tuscaloosa on that schedule. And look, they return a rare combination of not just experience, but talent to go with it. They've obviously got a pretty strong junior class in terms of some guys that we could be talking about on Sundays. But then the seniors, I think when you get talented seniors back, like a Braden Fajoko and a Rashard Lawrence and a Michael Divinity, like that's what can really take you over the edge. You don't see that too often. These are guys that probably could have gone pro, probably could have been drafted late in later rounds, and they didn't. So the expectations have to be there. This is the time is now.
No, look, this is Orgeron's 3rd full season, 4th count the interim season. Time is now. I mean, look, they had a good finish to last year, a great year last year, surpassed expectations. Now everyone expects them to be as good or better than they were last year. Look, this is a 10-win program, so the expectations, realistic or not, are always going to be there. But for this year, for this team, you have talent, you have depth, high-end talent, high-end depth, and experience. I think their expectations are right where they need to be.
ESPN released their Football Power Index. LSU is favored in 11 of their 12 contests. Obviously, the one game they're not favored in is in T-Town in November. They have a 25% chance of winning that game. I don't see where they don't get 11 wins. I think this is where they're going to be at 11-1, and Alabama's going to be the one hiccup on their schedule. Everything's setting up perfect for them to do some massive damage this year. And just give you a heads up, Mississippi's only an hour away. Their over-under win totals around 9.5. I'm just saying, they're going to win like 10 or 11. So, you just put the piece together what I'm just talking about right now.
Better be careful. Juan's going to start calling us homers here in a minute.
No, I would never do that. But offensively speaking, even with Joe Burrow in place, and I know that's the big talking point now, experienced quarterback back, looks even better with the year 200 with a full camp under his belt. Is this team a bit unproven still, though? Like they've got to, it's on paper, it looks great, but they still got to go out and prove that what's on paper is legit.
Well, that's every team. Yeah, every team's got to go out and prove it. I mean, every year is a new year. I'll say that the offense is going to look different. We know that. Does that lead to more success? This is what LSU fans have been crying for years, but does it lead to more wins? It'll lead to more passing yards, but does it lead to more wins? I think LSU's defense is too good to let them slip by, but still, I think the questions about the offense are how does it look, and the offensive line, can they hold up at the point of attack, because that's their weakness, and those are legitimate questions, but every team is going to have some form of a question heading into a season.
Right, the offensive line, you said it, Sean. I just look for Georgia Southern. You're not going to see anything, okay? They're going to keep it basic as they can. 2 running backs, possibly 1 tight end, 2 wide receivers, and then against Texas, just watch out. Put your seatbelt on. It's going to get wild when they go to Texas, because you're going to finally see what Joe Brady's been cooking up. You're not going to see against Georgia Southern. Against Texas in week 2, all bets are off.
And I would argue they're a little more proven than some teams you might. They're more proven than other teams you might put in the preseason top 10 or so, because they returned so many guys that played in that Fiesta Bowl. They returned so many guys that were on a double-digit win team last year. How many times have we seen a Florida State or a team with a new quarterback or a new coach or whatever, but because they have that name, they're put really highly, ranked really highly? We've seen it in the past with LSU and unproven teams, and it hasn't gone that way. But I would say LSU is one of the more proven teams in terms of just personnel, a lack of personnel turnover, that we saw last year have success.
I know the whole change of offensive philosophy from ground and pound to airing it out a little bit more. We've heard them say they're going to do this before. What's the realistic visual of what this offense will look like? 55% pass, 45 run, more 50-50? Or will it be that hard for them to break?
It won't be 65-35 as it has been. It'll probably be in the 50s to 55-45 in that range, give or take. I'll say this, though. Everyone is in love with the RPO term. But for those that don't know about it, you're hearing about it a lot, but it is one route. It is one route. It is the backside slant or the handoff. So just letting you know, it is an incredibly simple system. So I do think they'll like it because it's going to look different, but it is a simple system to run.
Yeah, and we can get so caught up in numbers and looking at how many technically runs there are, how many passes there are. I think with this offense, what they want to do is get the ball to guys in space. They want to have a lot of short passes. So we could see more wide receiver screens. We could see more quick hits to receivers, quick hits to guys out of the backfield, whatever it might be. Some of those plays are basically an extended handoff in terms of simplicity of the play. And so, yeah, it might be 60-40, 55-45, whatever it may be. But are these all going to be shots down the field, or are these all going to be intermediate crossing routes, over routes? Probably not.
Yeah, I would probably say 50-50. First game, though, probably maybe 70-30. They're going to just run the ball. Just run it, man. Don't show anything, and they're not going to show anything. You're going to see what you saw in the spring game. They did go on a 5-receiver set at the beginning. I think it was just trying to get everybody really excited. But in the first game, they're going to probably run more. in the second game, as I said before. What did I say, Walt? Open it up. Second week.
You say that, but you don't want to just open it up against Texas and never having run it in live action before. You're going to have to put those sets on the field. You're not going to maybe run trick plays or anything, but you're going to have to line up how you would line up against Texas at some point. That can't be the first time you do it in Austin.
You're right. All right, coming up, speaking of having high expectations, Tulane is eyeing its second straight bowl game. We'll talk about the Greenies' chances of even more success next.
Watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
All of a sudden, football is king on Tulane's campus. Tulane has the #1 recruiting class in the AAC in 2020. Is this the true Willie Fritz impact on this program? If you can play right now at Tulane?
Yeah, I would say so. I think being able to recruit in-state goes a long way, especially when Louisiana has some pretty good years. But I think their brand of football is exciting now that it's a consistent brand and we know what to expect. I mean, at least toward the end of last year, they were able to make some big plays. They had the short passing game working well. They got the ball to guys in space and had explosive plays from running back. Who wouldn't want to play in a fun offense like that? And now they're look to improve with a new offensive coordinator. And so, yeah, I think that playing that brand goes a long way, and being in New Orleans, if you can sell it right, goes a long way as well.
Handling success will be the key for this team this year. They haven't had to handle success in a long, long time. Is that where it starts with this team?
Absolutely, because now, just like LSU, the expectation is there. It's bowl or it's disappointment. So absolutely, I think but look, if Tulane wants to be where they want to be at respectability within this program, you got to take these expectations head on and meet them. Like last year, we were all disappointed the first half of the season. They came back strong the second half of the season. This year, hey man, it's a bowl game or it's a disappointment.
You know, Willie Fritz hasn't been here very long, Garland, but the one thing he has done with this program, he has changed the culture. That was hard for any coach to do, thinking back to the guys before him, and he's been able to do it. Why?
Well, I mean, geez, Bob Toledo, I mean, Chris Selfo,
they both had good ideas, but it's a different program from then to now, though.
Right, and CJ did recruit New Orleans, but he also, I don't know if he got the right guys there for his culture. It's just amazing where this program is with recruiting, the buzz on campus. You said it when we came in from the break. This is the #1 program at Tulane now. Baseball is taking a back seat. Basketball, maybe under Ron Hunter, they'll start to get it cooking again. But it's all about the wave, man. And we were joking that they had 12,000 fans at the Saints workout on Sunday night. I think there might have more than that on Thursday when they kick off their season. Not this Thursday, but at the end of the month on the 29th against FIU. You got Will Hall. You see him right here in the video. New offensive coordinator. I'm fired up. I'm going to be at that first game covering it. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. LSU's expectations, 10 wins. Really quickly, what should Tulane's expectations on the win meter be for this year? Because they got the #1 recruiting class coming in basically for 2020.
Look, they had 6 wins last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, went 4, 5, 6.
Improve. 7 or 8 wins.
Yeah, I'm going to say 8 because they probably should have had 8 last year. I think that's a fair number.
Yeah, they got some tough games this year, though, going against Army on the road, man, which in the past you'd say that's not a tough game. You got Houston. This schedule is going to be tough. I would say I'll go 8-4.
Okay, we'll go 8-4. All right, coming up, from a Saints prediction to a Pelicans turnaround and a pair of reality checks. Everyone gets a final say next.
Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
We've hit the home stretch here on Fox 8 Overtime. Of course, that means it's time for everyone's favorite part, our final say. And Sean Vazan leads us off.
Well, as I'm watching the Saints over the last few days, it struck me. This team is ready. And I mean really, really ready. This is my 12th year covering Saints training camp. And I'm just going to say it. I've never seen a Saints team look more ready for battle this early into camp. The coaches may not want to hear that. They have to keep this group focused. But that's just it. It's that focus that's got me to say that. I'm not one for bold proclamations, and I hate when people have that recency syndrome when we think the last good player we saw was the best thing in history. But I can't ignore the fact that this team looks completely dialed in 10 days into camp, and it's really been that way all camp. Combine that with the talent and depth, and that there really are no roster question marks outside of a few near the bottom of the 53, and of course injuries, which no one can truly foresee. And again, I feel confident in saying this team is ready.
Never underestimate the power of a marketable rookie. And yes, I'm talking about none other than Zion Williamson, who has the Pelicans playing in some of the best time slots of the year. This team that won less than 35 games a year ago will play on NBA opening night, reportedly at home, and Christmas Day. Those are pretty remarkable expectations given how bad it was to watch the Pelicans as last season came to an end. Now, obviously, the makeup of this team is a lot different than just Zion, but there's no denying that the 19-year-old first overall pick with a brand new shoe deal from the Jordan brand has the biggest impact on the Pelicans' primetime scheduling.
In the last 4 seasons, Alabama's record in football is 55-4 with 2 national championships, but they didn't win it all last season. They got crushed by Clemson in the title game. So entering the 2019 season, the Bama fans and some national media are calling it the revenge tour. Are you kidding me? You lost 1 game last season. Slow down, people. I know the Tide Field titles are their birth right now, but they're not. Clemson is here to stay. Georgia and LSU are hot on Alabama's heels. There's no revenge here. Just another team was better. Just focus on Duke in week 1. That's a week opener. Then go from there. No spite needed.
My final say is probably not my final gripe about women's soccer, more specifically the Women's World Cup. A month ago, Team USA won its 2nd straight title and 4th overall. No team has won as many, and no team in France was ridiculed quite like Team USA was after their 13-0 win against Thailand. But more of that is soon to come, thanks to the governing body FIFA. They've decided to expand the cup field from 24 to 32 teams, and it'll happen for the next tournament, 2023. FIFA decided to pounce on the successful tournament they had in France, but this will come at a cost. Yes, adding 8 more teams will mean a big financial haul to the new 8 countries that make it in, but how good or bad will those teams be? How bad will the blowouts be? 13-0, 15-0? In France, a number of smaller countries gave up goals in bunches, 4 and 5 at a time. That will continue with the addition of 8 more teams, but again, the almighty dollar is replacing common sense with FIFA. It's not the first time, and it certainly won't be the last time that happens. Be sure to subscribe to the Fox 8 Overtime podcast for more Saints analysis on demand, including more on Michael Thomas's return to the Saints offense. You can find our podcasts on Fox8Live.com, the Final Play app, and wherever you listen to your podcast. And that's going to do it for our show tonight. For all of us here at Fox 8, thanks for watching. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.